This is Katie, and welcome back to Making Macarons. Actually, this is the first episode of Making Macarons, which is really exciting. But I want to come on here today, and I actually want to explain the backstory of La Belle Petite Pastries. So that is why I titled this episode one of Making Macarons, Who Put the Belle in La Belle Petite Pastries? And I'm also kind of going to give you a little background of how I ended up going from being a medical lab tech to someone who was covered in powdered sugar all day, and how a little cookie called La Macaron actually completely changed my entire world. So let's get started. Let's get started with episode one of Making Macarons, Who Put the Belle in La Belle Petite Pastries. So, in March of 2021, I was in the lab at work, and I had been working in oncology and hematology for about 13 years at that point. And the year before, I had broke my pinky toe. Yes, my pinky toe. I broke my pinky toe to the point where it needed surgery. Who needs surgery on a pinky toe? Hey, come on, let's get real here. But anyway, I broke it and it needed surgery. And it got repaired, and I went back to work in March of 2021. And at that point, yeah, I tore my ACL. Walking to the lab machine, I tore my ACL. So that essentially kind of put the kibosh on my lab tech career for a little while. So I was at home, I was in cast, I was in boots, I was in walking shoes. I didn't wear two of the same shoes for 2.5 years. I had three surgeries, including the pinky toe repair. So it was crazy. It was crazy. That was my life for a little while. And mind you, COVID was going on at this time. So yeah, that was fun. Um, but about 6 months into that injury, I am not used to sitting still. I'm not used to being home all day. I'm not used to, we have four cats, and they were like, Mom, what are you doing here? What's going on? Why are you home all the time? Get out of the house. What they didn't realize is Mom can't drive. My dominant foot is broke. Um, so I was sitting around and I was on YouTube and I started watching videos, and I started just watching. I was watching Bake to Yours from Nicole, who she's one of the big macaron bakers on YouTube. YouTube her if you ever want to learn how to make macarons. She is phenomenal, and she is actually who I learned to make them from by watching her videos. Then I started watching Camilla on Pies and Tacos, who is another amazing macaron maker. And I just started thinking after about a month of watching macarons being made on TV, I was like, yeah, I think I can do this. I'm going to try it. Yeah. Well, fast forward 4 months later, I finally made a tray of macarons that looked like something I might have someone I know eat that I actually liked. So yeah, so it took me about 3.5 to 4 months to learn actually how to make a macaron that looked like something I would feed another human. So, moral of that story is, if you want to learn to make macarons, first of all, watch Bake to Yours and watch Pies and Tacos, and watch them a lot before you ever attempt it. And watch their how-to videos. Their how-to videos are amazing. Then get an oven thermometer. Do not buy cheap material. Do not buy cheap mats. Macaron mats are expensive, and they're expensive for a reason. And then expect to make these puppies for about 3 to 4 months before they look like something you can give to the dog in your living room, or possibly your husband if he'll try them. My husband's a picky eater. I was lucky I ever got him to try one. But I finally did, and he liked it. So long story short. So now I'm to the point where I have been making these macarons, and I'm like, okay, I might be able to do this. I might want to create a home bakery out of it. So I'm in Florida. So I look up Florida's, laws, and I start looking up their cottage kitchen laws. And I'm like, okay, that's not too bad. I just got to make a label, make sure everything's on there, yada, yada. Great. Okay. So I'm like, I'm going to create a little French bakery. And then all of a sudden, I decide, hmm, okay, I've got to name this bakery. Here is where the story begins. And hang in there with me for a minute, guys, because this story is going to get sad, but it's going to get happy also. So we're going to go on a roller coaster ride for a minute. So just hang in there with me, okay? Um, my childhood nickname growing up. Wait, let me fast forward. There were two names I was going to give this bakery in the beginning. I was either going to call it the Humble Macaron because learning to make macarons will humble you, period. Like it will humble you. You will either learn how to make them and you will be good at it, or you will give up and you will burn every macaron mac you ever bought. It's going to go one or two ways. I swear to you, it will. So I was going to call it the Humble Macaron. But then I was like, you know, I want something a little more personal. Now, at this time, my mother had been diagnosed with stage 4 triple negative breast cancer. Um, Mind you, I had been working in hematology and oncology this whole time. Okay. So I was doing this at home and then I was bringing it home with me. So decided to start making the bakery once I was injured and I was home. And my mother, who was probably, I want to say almost 3 years into her battle by then, um, she became a huge fan of my almond croissants. And my mother lived in Texas. So I would bake this stuff for her and I would send it to her. And I kept saying, Mom, I don't want to charge you for it. And she's like, No, I'm a customer. I'm a paying customer. You're trying to start a bakery. You can't make a bakery for free. So, okay. So she constantly paid me for it. And I made a macaron for her. I created a strawberry chocolate almond one because she loved almonds and the almond croissants. She loved them. And I told her one day, I was like, I'm trying to come up with a name. And I did a little raffle and I had people give me a bunch of different ideas of, what I should name it. And it was like the cute macaron, the blah, 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 and none of them seemed to fit. And I was like, I want something a little more French. Well, my childhood nickname growing up just happened to be Belle. My mother called me Belle my whole life. Um, my dad has always called me Lou because my middle name is Louise, but my mother has always called me Belle. And I knew my mom was getting sicker and kind of coming to the end of her journey. And so I decided, I was like, the macarons, right? They're beautiful little cookies. Like, yes, they will humble you, but when you make them correctly with their skin and their feet, they are absolutely beautiful little cookies. So I was like, okay, well, Belle means beautiful, right? In Italian, and I believe in French also, but I know in Italian it does. Um, so I was like, I'm going to call it the beautiful little pastry because Belle was my childhood nickname. It came from my mother. My mother loved my French pastries. And then the macaron, which is a beautiful little pastry. So there you go. That is how I came to La Belle Petite Pastries, which in American is the beautiful little pastry. And it was named after the macaron, and it was named after my childhood nickname. My mother lost her battle with triple negative breast cancer on November 11th, 2022. And I am honored to be able to keep this going. I'm honored to be able to look at the name of this bakery and know she's part of it. I see her every time I see the name, and it just reminds me to keep going. I warned you guys, the story was going to get sad for a minute. But yeah, so that's who put the Belle in La Belle Petite Pastries. Now moving on, going forward, I am no longer in hematology and oncology. I had decided for two reasons not to go back. I didn't go back because my mother had just died and it's just too much. I can't look at it right now. I love hematology oncology. I would love to go back to it one day. I'm really good at it and I miss it. But I think I would miss my sanity more. And I will definitely be losing my sanity trying to work in oncology right now. So no. So right now I am doing Belle Petite Pastries full time. I do plan on going back to the medical field, something along ophthalmology, probably not oncology or hematology anytime soon. But I'm right now doing Belle Petite Pastries the full time. So, but getting back to the story, learning how to make macarons humbled me. Learning how to make macarons gave me something to do when I was dealing with a sick mother, when I was dealing with a broken foot, when I was dealing with sheer boredom. And it essentially saved me. It gave me something to do. It gave me a new hobby, a hobby I've turned into something that is absolutely amazing and wonderful that I am actually selling to the general public now. We just did a farmer's market the other day and did fabulous at it. Now I'm doing royal icing cookies. I made little Eiffel Tower royal icing cookies, and they are absolutely adorable. So it definitely took my life in a different direction. But I I believe everything happens for a reason. And I believe if anything, if you have a calling, if you've had something happen to you, don't sit down and give up. Don't ever quit on yourself. There's always new options. There's always new paths, and I don't have a quitter mentality. So I got up. I learned how to make macarons. I got my butt kicked by these cookies a few times. We went a few rounds, but I won. I won. I won. I'm making them and I'm selling them and people are buying them. So I won. I'm going to take that as a win. And and yeah, and just keep going and create something new, on top of all of this, besides being humbled by it and having something that reminds me of my mother for the rest of my life. And but also having a small business in my community now, being able to give something back, being able to put my place in this small community that I live in Trinity, Florida, and being able to just be part of it and making people happy with cookies. And, what's better than that? So, and being able to wear cool shirts that look like this. Macaron dealer. That is my official shirt. So, that's my story, guys. That is who put the Belle in Belle Petite Pastries. That is how I went from point A, Katie the lab tech, to point B, Katie covered in powdered sugar making macarons. And yeah, and that's how I've gotten here to you guys now. So I am going to try to do an episode every Monday, and we will move on to episode 2. And I'm pretty sure that is going to be about the book that is over my shoulder, which is called La Petite Macarons. That is where I got my inspiration for making macarons. I literally refer to that book as the Macaron Bible. I mentioned earlier in this video, if you want to actually learn how to make macarons and see them done properly and all the cottage laws and stuff, then go watch Pies and Tacos with Camilla and go watch Bake to George with Nicole. They are amazing on YouTube. But once you're tired of watching videos, which you will get tired of watching them, go buy that book right there over my shoulder, La Petite Macarons. That is a macaron Bible, and it will tell you everything you need to know. And it also even discusses what is going to be episode 3 for us. Macaron versus macaroon. And yes, they are 2 different cookies. No, they are not the same thing. No, they are not pronounced the same way. And if you approach a macaron dealer and call it a macaroon, they are going to roll their eyes at you. And I'm going to explain to you why. So, thanks for sticking with me for episode 1. I will talk to you guys next week. Take care of yourself. Bon appetit.